Documentary, conspiracy theories, sarcasm and beer. It's a conversation, start listening, cause we're all here. Bobby Pickles Podcast!
That's me! Yep, that's me. My name's Bobby Pickles, and welcome to my first podcast. Today, we're going to have on the show a gentleman by the name of Francesco Portelos. He's a New York City school teacher who teaches out on Staten Island, the forgotten borough of New York City. Mr. Portelos is a trained engineer. He left his engineering job to pursue teaching, and he had a pretty good teaching career until he wound up in what's called the Temporary Reassignment Center. Out in New York, there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of red tape, and if a teacher is accused of anything from molestation, just being incompetent, they are assigned to, well, what people call a rubber room. That's the term for it here. And they basically put them in this room, like with a cubicle or whatnot, and they give them paperwork just to take up their time, and they have to sit there until all the allegations that were brought against them, until they're able to go in front of like an intermediary, an arbitrator of some kind, and then hear those allegations out. We're going to be talking to Francesco Portelos. He's been very vocal in what has happened to him since he's been put into the rubber room. He's been blogging about it. He was in a lot of different news sources. He was in the Daily News, which is the rag that I read every morning. They say if you want to know what's going on in the world, you read the New York Times. If you want to know what's going on in New York City, you read the Daily News. And that's what I do all the time because I'm interested in that kind of stuff. But anyway, he was in that, and so that's where I got the idea to track him down and to discuss his story with him. So I'd like to bring him on the line, and let's talk to Francesco Portelos. So you're doing this, where are you doing this from right now?
Right now I just jumped in my car because it's the only quiet place I can talk.
Okay. All right, so I just wanted to give a little backstory about this, first of all. So this is something that doesn't really happen anywhere else. It only happens in the New York City metropolitan area. And what that is this issue of temporary reassignment centers. So just to give a little backstory on it, basically, Francesco, you can hop in and correct me if I'm a little wrong about this, but the city, basically, they have a contract with the union, the United Federation of Teachers Union, and they basically say they require that an arbitrator hear any charges against any teachers. So, like, if any teachers are, they're charged with anything at all, from touching a kid to just misconduct in any general way, basically the union has their back, and they make sure that everything is heard, and they still get paid. Is that right?
Right. Okay. Just a few corrections. Is I have been contacted by other teachers from around the country who tell me there's quote unquote rubber room style settings in Florida and LA, and they also add that it almost always happens. Not almost always, but there's definitely a retaliation aspect that they're seeing becoming an epidemic. So the second thing is the union doesn't always have your back if you're touching kids. What they're simply saying is you have due process. Tenure, a lot of people think tenure is a job for life, and it's not. It's just allowing due process that your case is heard. In the private sector, I would have been fired the first day I raised concerns.
Right.
But because this is public money, I think it's important that people understand.
So this is something that's happening elsewhere, really? I did a little bit of research here, and I was looking up this whole thing, and there's nothing really in any kind of mainstream media about this in other places, and this is the first time I've ever heard of it, living here in New York and being from Florida. I actually, my girlfriend is actually a New York City school teacher, but before that she was a Florida teacher, and this is pretty new to her as well, this whole thing. But let's talk about you. Like, so you're a teacher, and you teach where exactly? What borough?
In Staten Island. I teach in Stapleton, Staten Island.
Stapleton. Okay. And then so the school that you were teaching at, I saw there was school digger rankings that you actually post on your blog, and it was 939th out of 1,124 schools, and it only has 1 out of 5 stars, and the whole district in itself only has 2 stars. So Tell me about that. Is that this school that you worked at? It's not the best school, performing school, or what?
Right. It's not, and I knew that going in. And even in my interview, my principal asked me when I was leaving engineering to make the jump. She was looking at my resume. She's like, "Have you done your homework on this school?" And I said, "I did, and that's why I want to teach here." And I'm actually a resident in the community there, so
Wait,
I wear two hats.
So you were an engineer?
Right. I'm an engineer from Polytechnic University, and for 7 years I did environmental engineering and inspection. There's a lot of inspection.
What exactly is that? Environmental engineering.
So, for example, let's say they want to do some work on the Verrazano Bridge, and the bridge is coated in lead paint. They can't just go and start scraping the paint off so it falls into the water, goes into the air for people to breathe or animals to breathe. So an engineer would go in and assess the situation and design a way to catch or collect the material. Or another thing was I would go on a monthly basis to Katona, New York, to sample their drinking water. And if I saw that the levels were higher than what's allowable for some chemicals, I would notify them. Well, I would give them a report as it was, even if it's clean.
So you had a career before you were a teacher?
Oh.
You were an engineer?
Yeah, very good career. Right.
How long were you doing that for in the private sector?
7 years. So from 2000 to 2007.
And so what made you want to give that up? Were you making a pretty decent salary there doing that, being an engineer?
I was. I mean, I was making with overtime. I think my last full year, I was making $75,000. So my 2006 W-2 showed about $75,000.
So
and the starting salary of a teacher at that time, when I was making the jump, was about 48. So you can imagine it was quite a cut.
Now, Francesco, you've been pretty vocal in the New York City area, and there's I've talked to teachers, I've mentioned your name, and everybody seems to know about the story going on. So tell me what happened. Now you actually make speaking of money, you started out at around, you say, like 40, 50, whatever $1,000, but now you're making $75,000. This was around that.
Yeah, so I'm making as much as I was 5 years ago, but that's because I went back to school. I got, when you start adding your master's degree, 30 credits of master's plus, some additional years, you get your pay scale increase. So I'm making exactly as much as I was making 5 years ago.
Okay, but the only thing is, though, now you're not actually teaching currently. You are a teacher. You're on the payroll. You're receiving your paycheck every single week, month, by week, whatever it is. But what are you doing? Where are you right now? Like, where do they have you?
So like I said, I taught in Stapleton, Staten Island, and since I was removed April 26th, and a few days later, from being originally positioned in Staten Island, which is the regulations, once you remove a teacher, you got to keep them in their district. The DOE decided to violate that regulation and send me about 20 miles away. I'm in Ozone Park, New York. And
Ozone Park? Where's Ozone Park?
It's in Queens. It's off the Bell Parkway. Lots of traffic, lots of construction.
Is it kind of by like where Queens got pretty beat up with the Sandy, with the superstorm Sandy that was pretty recently? Is it anywhere by there? Is that where Ozone Park is, or no? Okay.
No, it's further north. So it wasn't damaged, but it was hard to get to.
Okay, so they have you. So they have you out there,
right?
And that's not in the borough that you were teaching at. You're in a different district. They have to keep you in that same district, but they have you in a different one now.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. This was part of the game. Actually, the whole rubber room reassigned teacher thing is a whole psychological game. Is what it is. Even not giving you work is part of the game. Giving you no work to sit there, for days and days. I wasn't given work from April 26th. I was first given work sometime in the end of May. And the only reason I was given work, and it was busy work, was because CNN called the Department of Education to ask them about me. So the same day, Kiran Khalid, she's a producer from CNN, contacted me. She also contacted the DOE. She says, "Is it true that this teacher's not doing anything and they're getting paid?" Which kind of makes us look like the bad guys, but really, I'll get into that later. So all of a sudden they gave me work. They're like, "Oh, call these numbers, extensions, and make sure people sit there." So for the most part, I'm not doing anything. Just
what kind of work do they give you?
What's that?
What kind of work do they give you? Is it just like paperwork, just like kind of brainless activity, like just
right,
devoid of cognitive function, kind of just to like make you go crazy, kind of that kind of thing?
Yeah, hence the name Rubber Room. I mean, there used to be 100 and something teachers in one big cafeteria-sized room doing nothing. They had their beach volleyball, beach chairs. I mean, it was. That's not how it is now. Now it's set up different. It's broken up and integrated.
So wait a second. That's like the history of the Rubber Room. Like, when exactly did the Rubber Room start anyway? I mean, obviously it was like New York was the founder of this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I'd imagine. And when did it start? When did this kind of like whole thing with like if any? It seems like we're really. I don't know. I'm just gonna go out. I think that we're really. I don't want any kids to get touched or anything like that. But it seems like they're very sensitive here, and if you do anything at all, and I'm just speaking from, like I said before, my girlfriend is a teacher, and I have discussions with her about what's going on in her class. She feels very frustrated that there's not a lot of discipline that goes on. You can't really do anything, and it seems like teachers are kind of they're retaliated against, and the kids kind of know that there's like this game that they could play, and if you do anything. And if they don't even like you or something, they can just go, hey, you know what? I'll tell somebody that you touched me or something like that. That kind of thing.
I gotta tell you, quick story is a guy that's here with me from February has not been charged with anything. He ran a flag football team after school. He told some kids they could not be on the team because they were cursing, they didn't have their grades up, blah blah blah. A few days later, he gets pulled out of the school and has not been back. He's read like 20-something books because the kids went up and said, the same kids that he kicked off the team went and told the dean, oh, he makes us feel uncomfortable. Not that he touched us, not that, is that crazy or what? He's making 70-something thousand. The guy wants to teach. He can't because these two kids or three kids went up, got together because they know they could. And, and that's what we're dealing with.
That's a horrible story.
Real sexual miscreants.
Yeah, that's terrible. It seems like it's open for abuse. It seems to be easily abusable, and then, let's get so basically what happened to you to put you into the like okay, so there are probably I read somewhere that over all the 5 boroughs of New York City, out of all the teachers accused of misconduct, there's about 600 or so. Teachers right now who are receiving checks, and they're in these rubber rooms, and there's all kinds of complaints that could happen, and it could range from molesting to even incompetence. I mean, in this system, there's hardly anybody rarely called incompetent, but I'm just going to ask you right now, Francesco, are you incompetent? Why are you in this situation? Like, what happened?
Absolutely not. Actually, my class was praised, even by the principal, even by the same people that sent me away to the rubber room. My class was constantly praised. So they knew they couldn't touch my class. They couldn't come after me like that, which they've done to other teachers. They do that to a lot of veteran teachers who they want to push out to retire. They come at them and say, oh, you're just not up with the times, you're incompetent. But they tried doing that. They gave me a U rating in my classroom.
What's a U rating?
An unsatisfactory observation. So they came and observed my class, but get this, I was gone from Friday to Friday for jury duty. So I was out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, imagine a middle school class, computer lab, with a substitute for 4 days. My room was a mess. I walk in first period back from jury duty, and who walks in behind me but an assistant principal with a clipboard. And instead of staying a short, frequent observation period is like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they stayed 90 minutes. They stayed for 2 periods. I mean, it was a full gotcha.
I see what you're saying. So like I'd imagine in any work environment, you have with your bosses, they would probably, if they liked you and stuff, and they respected you as a coworker, they might have you prepared, and maybe you worked a couple days, you worked the week, and they kind of, they probably wanted to get you in a good resting environment. They seem to have like jumped right on you after you being away for an entire week. Is that kind of right? Like it was kind of like a witch hunt. It's only supposed to be a certain amount of time, and they stayed at 90 full minutes just to try to get something on you. That makes
right. And I had right, exactly. It's a gotcha. It's kind of they come in and they're not looking to improve. They're not looking to find problems and help you improve. They came in. They said we're gonna get him. They picked one of the worst classes, and I say that because when I say worst class, I meant it was an 8th grade class that was very apathetic. They were about to graduate. It's March. It's a special education class. There was only 4 kids in the class, and they know that I mean, it was perfect. It was the perfect storm for them. They're like, there's no way he's going to be able to pull this off. And you know what? 3 out of the 4 kids still did my work, and they were engaged. But when they wrote up the post observation, meaning like, oh, okay, come in and let me tell you what we saw, they neglected and omitted all the positives. I even caught the assistant principal saying, the kids, Mr. Portelos, the kids are not even answering any of your questions. And then 5 minutes later, she's like, well, the kids weren't even raising their hands. They were just blurting out answers. So I said to her, I was like, wait, you just said they weren't answering. Now you're saying they're blurting out answers. Oh, she's like, I meant they were blurting out statements. I mean, you know.
Who was this person that conducted this? This was the principal?
No, this is the assistant principal. But that was on that meeting she had with me where she gave me your rating. Coincidentally enough, it was only 3 days after I called the Office of Equal Opportunity on her for sexual harassment. There was an incident back in October that happened at a bar. I haven't really talked about this a lot in my blog because it's under investigation, so I wasn't allowed to talk about it. But they're telling me that the investigation is done now and they're writing the report. I don't know what the outcome is, but an incident happened with this assistant principal in October. I rebuffed her advances at a bar, and then ever since then, it was just, you're unprofessional. She was mocking me in the hallway. She was calling me unprofessional. Meanwhile, I had no problems with her prior to that.
So wait a second. So you go out for a drink with your coworker? Is that what happened? Like, how did you find yourself in this situation?
Yeah, with my coworkers.
Okay, with your coworkers. So there was other people there as well. There's other coworkers.
Yeah, there was other there, and then my assistant principal happened to be there. And as the night progressed, I mean, even now, I'm not sure if I could get into details, but she said some lewd things, and I wanted to call on car service and leaving, even though I had a ride home. And just to let you know what she said to me caused me to be like so uncomfortable, and that I actually called car service and headed home. I told my wife, I was like, I just had the craziest experience. I didn't know she was going to continue to harass me after that,
So she just kept on harassing you? Like, how is she doing that?
I mean, she even went up when I was running for a union position, and she's a different union. She was going to people and saying, don't vote for him, or, you voted for him, because they were, I started gaining a lot of power and control in the...
I kind of wanted to, actually, you bring up a good point, and I wanted to talk about that. It's this thing with the union delegate thing. So, all right, so you ran for a union delegate. Now, what exactly is a union delegate?
So the chapter leader is the top person in the school with a union. The delegate is second in command. You go to these meetings, you bring back information, and that's what I initially did, working under Richard Candia, the union chapter leader of the school. Now, is this
a customary thing for teachers to join the union and try to rise up within the union ranks?
No, it's not customary, but everyone is part of the union. But how much they want to be involved is up to them. Some people try and fail, like they just don't become any higher position. But I had aspirations of making that school better, and if I couldn't do it from the academic side, I was going to do it from any way possible. So I joined the school leadership team and became a union delegate.
Okay, and then so the school leadership team. What? So you basically you became a union delegate and then joined the school leadership team simultaneously.
Right.
And what exactly is that? The school leadership team.
School leadership team is a team of comprised of both parents and staff members. It's got to be an even amount. There's 3 mandatory members, and that's the PTA president, the principal, and the chapter leader. I later became chapter leader. So funny enough, they tried to vote me out of the school leadership team in March as the heat got kicked up and they were trying to really stop me from investigating their financial misconduct and asking all these questions. They tried to vote me out and they lost the vote, and now I'm a mandatory member because they also tried to kick me out of school prior to the elections for the chapter union leader. So I said before I was a delegate, the chapter leader was involved in getting me out of the school before I ran against them in the chapter elections. And as I wouldn't say luck have it, I worked hard.
Do those two responsibilities conflict, being a union delegate and then a member of the school leadership team?
No. I think all arrows should be pointing in the same direction. I mean, I think we're really looking to increase that number from 939th middle school of New York State to number one is going to take a collective. So if I joined, I was in a really good spot to help make changes, and some people didn't like that. It was not working with their agenda, so they're like, hey, let's get him out. So they came up with 20 or 22 ridiculous allegations against me to get me out. They even make allegations against me while I'm out. They still keep coming. They still keep adding these ridiculous allegations, like making lights blink, emailing parents was an allegation.
All right, so let's back up a little bit. Okay, so first of all, all right, you're a union delegate. You obtain a seat on the school leadership team. Okay, what happens? I read somewhere about there's some kind of comprehensive educational plan, a CEP.
Right. So we have two responsibilities as a school leadership team. Just two.
Okay.
Write the goals of the school, which is the CEP, and align it with the budget. Now here comes December 13th, which is it's kind of crazy because it's almost a year from now. It's almost been a year. And I raised my hand. It's December 13th. We didn't talk about it in September, October, November. I raised my hand, and I totally honestly, I raised my hand in a very innocent way, and I say, hey, shouldn't we be talking about the CEP and the budget? And all of a sudden, all the parents are like, hey, he's right. Like almost like they were waiting for someone to finally bring it up. And they were all talking about it, and we're like, yeah, we'll bring it up, when the principal comes back into the room, because she had stepped out. And it's totally coincidence. I'm not afraid of the principal. I never was. So I would never. A lot of people are like, oh, why'd you wait for her to leave to bring that up? And I didn't. And you can see from my blog, I have no problems bringing things up. So all of a sudden she comes in, the principal comes in. She's like, oh, no, I submitted that already. Mind you, that's a huge violation of New York State law and chancellor's regulation. If she submitted a plan that we didn't sign off on, it's a big problem.
Okay.
And I started raising these concerns. But now the SLT has a chairperson. That was Suzanne Abramowitz. She was a math teacher, but she was the chairperson. She was heavily responsible for this because she runs the meetings. She runs the thing.
Who's Susan Abramowitz?
She's a math teacher at the school and she was the school leadership team chairperson. So now she's at fault because she's like, wait a minute, he's bringing up issues that I should have brought up. So what happened? The chapter leader and her and
the chapter leader, this guy, Rich Candia, right? Candia.
Yeah. So unbeknownst to me, Bobby, they all got together and started plotting against me. And it makes sense now because I look back at the dates of times of certain things and meetings. They started saying, hey, we're going to need to shut this guy up. So they started calling me a hindrance to the school. They wrote up fake.
So mafia style, huh? They got kind of crazy. Got mafia style on you, huh?
Definitely mafia style, but picked the wrong guy. Because here I am a year later. Now I'm chapter leader. I'm running for the executive board of the union. I got support from across the country. I've been in the papers, all this stuff. So they really picked on the wrong guy. And, now they're both off the team. And the principal is under investigation.
So wait, so you became a chapter leader now?
Yeah, but listen how I did this. They got me out, right? So I was 20 miles away, and my staff had not seen me for 50 days when the election day came up. I show up at the school. I nominate myself. I show up at the school to cast my ballot, and I wasn't allowed in the school, so I had to bring the ballot box out. I got my shirt and tie, my politician suit on, and I'm shaking hands as people coming in. A couple hours later, I get a call, and they said, you won. I was the first person ever to win chapter leader position from the rubber room. No one's ever done it before.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's just a testament to...
Or maybe it's not so great, but... I mean, it's like you were saying, like it's a testament to what? Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, to my presence in the building, my outspoken attitude. I mean, the staff sees stuff all the time. They can't say stuff because of retaliation. So they're like, well, let's nominate this guy. This guy has no problem, saying he'll stand up for us when the other guy was throwing them under the bus. Like we found emails where the chapter leader, Rich Candia, was emailing the principal, naming all these names of teachers that are calling them my supporter. Like, oh, these are the Portelos' supporters. all those teachers started getting observations out of nowhere. It was disgusting.
Now, what are some of these charges they brought up against you?
Oh, ready? Okay.
Yep.
Are you sitting down or are you standing up?
I'm sitting down.
All right. So they range from hacking my own website. I owned a website that I let the school use, that the school was using for years, and it was praised even by the state. The state came down to review us, and they put that as a positive. I owned the site, and they didn't realize I owned it. So when they cut me out of the site, like they went in, and, I gave them administrative access, right, because she's a principal or whatnot. They cut me out, and I was like, wait a minute, it's the weekend. I don't have access to my own website. So I went in and I disabled her administrative access so she can't do that again. That's an allegation against me. One allegation was that I walked by the chapter leader's classroom too often, and he felt intimidated. So imagine this. It's 3 floors in the school. I teach on the second. He teaches on the second. He says I walked by his classroom too often. I mean, ridiculous.
So did you have like a tiff? Did you kind of have like a tiff with this guy?
Yeah, well, it turns out we had a blowout meeting. We had a union meeting. And, honestly, when that meeting took place on January 27th, I didn't know he was against me as much as he was. He ran his meeting, and I'm the second in command, right? So I get up to speak. He asks, he's like, anything else? I said, I have something to say. And I was going to talk about all of us have to work together and not backstab each other. It was typical union stuff. He stops him from talking. Now there's 60 people in there. They're looking at the chapter leaders, telling the delegate to shut up. This is crazy. What the hell's going on? So I continued talking because I was like, hey, I have the floor. I'm going to continue talking. And he decides to get everyone to leave while I'm talking. Now, out of 60 people, only 3 people left. His girlfriend, which is an English teacher, and the chairperson, Susanna Bromowitz. So imagine the same 3 people that were conspiring with the principal are the only ones that left, and I held off the meeting. I continued the meeting on my own. So
you were just like an outspoken, gung ho, just crazy guy, and you're disrupting their flow of what crazy in a good way. But you were disrupting their flow, and you weren't just following. You weren't just being a sheep. And you were trying to make things better, basically.
Exactly, because Bobby, I got 2 sons, and at the time that this was happening, I only had 1 son. My other son was just born. So, and I thought to myself, would my son go to this? My son would go to that school because we're zoned. Like I said, I'm in that community, so I'm a parent in that community. And for 5 years that I was at the school, I didn't take this active role as far as this type of leadership. And it all correlates to the birth of my son. I was like, wait a minute, my son's going to go here in 10 years and it's ranked 939th in the state? I was like, I don't think so. I'm going to do something better. I got 10 years. I got a lot of work to do. And I started.
That's pretty admirable that you did that. You're trying to make it better.
For everyone, for my neighbors, for all the kids, for the community. And I've gotten support from the community, but it's kind of silent support. I wish I had louder support, but I actually talked to someone today who was pretty loud, and it's going to be slowly but surely we're going to get the community involved, because so far it's only really one voice.
Yeah, but a lot of people know about this. And I heard about it. It was in all the papers, right? It was in. This was. Okay. How long ago was that? It was it was 2 months ago or so. I saw your name in the Daily News. It was in a bunch of stuff about this guy who's in the rubber room and he's blogging while he's in there. Because wasn't there I don't know when it was, but I did come across some kind of sound bite. I can't find it right now. I wanted to have it for this, but there's a sound bite where they had a meeting with the UFT guy and Mayor Bloomberg, and Mayor Bloomberg basically said, that this is going to be the end of the rubber room. We're going to stop it. We're going to make the arbitrations happen a lot faster. There's not going to be as much red tape and whatnot. And when was that? When did they have that? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah, April 15th, 2010. So over 2 years ago, they said they're going to close down the rubber rooms. And pretty much everyone believed them. And the word rubber room is not coming out of anyone's mouth for almost 2 years that I know of. I didn't hear about it. I mean, I thought they were closed and whatnot. And lo and behold, here I come. They put the wrong guy in the new rubber rooms. And I've been blogging about it ever since day one. But that wasn't enough. So on October 4th, I was like, you know what? Let me take my tablet. I hotspot my phone. I was like, let me live stream. Let me just show people. And I didn't think it was going to take off like it did. I thought a couple of my friends and people on Twitter that follow me were going to see it. But apparently it started getting retweeted. And they're like, look at this guy, shirt and tie, sitting in a conference room on his laptop when he's getting paid $75,000 to teach. And it caught on, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, my site, protectportelos.org, got like 6,000 hits in one day. But what's funny is the DOE put a statement out saying, no, all reassigned teachers have administrative duty. So that was a Thursday. I went in on Friday, and I did it again, which really, like, caught on. I mean, that was like hundreds of viewers were watching me just sit there. Univision was calling me from Florida. I got calls from Japan, Takande, Morning Show, Yahoo News. I was doing interviews everywhere. I was like, hey, listen, but the whole thing is don't hate the player, hate the game. Don't hate these teachers that are getting paid to do nothing. You got to hate the system.
Yeah.
Work on the system, be pissed at the system.
So what do you think should be happening right now to you in your case?
All right, so I didn't go through all my allegations, but if you look through
let's
my website.
Can we do a rundown really quick? Let's just do like a broad thing. So I have some stuff here. So
Okay.
On February 28, 2002, two investigators from SCI and Assistant Principal Joanne Aguirre came to my class while I was teaching. They unplugged and took the desktop that runs my lab. What's that about?
Yeah, so that was my first encounter with SCI.
What is SCI?
SCI is the Special Commissioner of Investigation. They work under the Department of Investigation in New York City, but they're like the DOE policing force. They can make arrests. They do the heavy investigations. So all of a sudden they show up at my door while I'm teaching, and I walked over to see if they needed something. I didn't know they needed me. They're outside my class, and they're like, oh, we're here to collect some computer equipment. And I was kind of, in a way, expecting them at some point because there's people who have been seeing this happen to teacher after teacher after teacher. And one guy asked me, he's like, do you have any investigations on you? I was like, no. He's like, you're going to get them. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, trust me. He's like, do you have any disciplinary letters in your file? I was like, no. He's like, well, you're going to get those too. And this guy was absolutely right. They followed textbook style, get the paper trail working on Portelos to terminate him. Terminate. Like, that's the ultimate goal here is to get me out of the school, to terminate me. A guy who took a $20,000 cut salary to teach, whose robotics team was number one in the city from that school, let's terminate him.
All right,
but
so what happened with this event, the event of February 28, 2012, after a parent-teacher conference?
So, right before actually parent-teacher conference. So my class is working on their stuff. They're about to wrap up, and this guy starts asking me all these questions. He's like, we're going to need to confiscate your iPad, your MacBook, another iPad. They had a list that was kind of inaccurate. I didn't have all those things. And so I go to press a couple buttons on my computer, which was kind of funny, to shut down the kids' computer so we could start packing up for the day. And I think the investigator thought I was trying to, press a secret code that would erase the hard drive kind of thing, like you see in the movies. Because he runs over and he unplugs my computer as I'm pressing buttons to shut down the kids' computers. I had an app that shuts down the kids' computers all in one shot, so I don't have to go around 30 computers. Anyway, they pull the machine out. Then they tell me that they want to come to my house to confiscate the rest. So I had some computer equipment in my house, which we're allowed to do because we work on stuff at home. Like, people think teachers go home at 2 and their day's over. It's definitely not over. So, but I asked, what's funny? I asked for a lawyer, and they told me I don't need a lawyer. And I found out later, I definitely needed a lawyer. I shouldn't be talking to them. They said, oh, you don't need a lawyer. We're just here to collect the information, equipment that belongs to us. I was like, oh, really?
What was this thing? What was this thing on March 20th, 2012? A coworker asked me how I'm handling all this while I was in the hallway. I put my fist up and proclaimed staying strong.
Oh, yeah.
What was that? What was that?
That was the same assistant principal was walking by. Now, at this point, I lost 14 pounds in about a month from the stress. So people told me I was withering away. Like, my pants were I had to go a couple notches into my belt. So people asked me in the hallway, they saw what was happening. And one woman asked me, she's like, how are you holding up, honey? And I said, staying strong. And the assistant principal that sexually harassed, have the allegations against her, she was walking by, and this was part of the harassment, was she mocked me. Like, as she passed me, she's like, stay strong. And she, laughed. I was like, you kidding me? And that's I was like, is this, this is the same woman that's been at my house for my wife and I used to be were very open for the school. We had all the staff over for events, and these are the people that were at my house and then later were attacking me. It's kind of crazy.
All right, so what other allegations?
Oh, so emergency lights in classrooms were blinking, and they said that I made them blink. Another one was that when they removed me, I knew that I could continue teaching because all my lessons were online as it was, even if I wasn't removed. So I emailed all the parents and said, listen, I've been removed. I got to figure it out. In the meantime, I don't want your kids losing out on this education. Go to my site, mrportelos.com. Mm-hmm. And, if they want to, they could continue doing their lessons. Obviously, I'm not going to grade them and things like that, but I could review them. Parents wrote back, oh, this is great. Thank you for being so dedicated that you're still teaching. I mean, I'm teaching the kids from the rubber room. And they put that as an allegation against me.
Oh, okay. So they put you in this temporary reassignment center, and you continued to teach the kids afterwards. So that's
right. I mean, that's who I am. I mean, you could take the teacher out of the classroom, but you see, the classroom?
You do see how that could be legitimately right thought of as, like, let's say you did do something horrible, you molested a kid or something like that, and then you're coming back and you're continuing to try to teach. Right? That seems somewhat...
but see, none of the allegations were like that. See, none of the allegations at all had anything to do with kids being hurt or touched or anything like that.
Really, it seems to me like all the allegations were this little thing that happened with you being a union delegate and then being on this STL or whatever, SLT thing and raising these questions about the budget, right? I mean, wasn't that really it? And then they just got mad about that, and right. And then kind of it was just trying to shut you up and get you out.
Yeah, but Bobby, listen to this. I basically on December 13th, when I asked about the budget, I knocked. It's almost as if I knocked on a little door that they didn't want me to even know existed. So now, as a parent in the neighborhood, I was like, wait a minute, you're coming at me, Mr. Portelos, who left late and got locked in the school because I worked so hard in the school and worked so late. You're coming after me just for asking for the budget? Now I need to know what's going on with the budget. $7.7 million is not a little bit of money. And as it turns out, I found months later, through the Freedom of Information law, I requested my principal's time cards because I want to see what she's doing with her after-school procession money. Bobby, she was double dipping on your tax dollars. She was at 2 meetings at the same time, punching in for both, writing in. She's attending one meeting, and she's writing in the time that she was there for another meeting at the same exact time. That's called double dipping. It's a felony. I can't see how she won't be arrested for all this, because I found in just 1 year that she did this about 10 times.
Oh, so what did you do with the information when you found this?
Well, when I first found it, I was trying to stay low-key. A lot of people were like, oh, you're blogging everything. I was like, I always tried diplomacy first. I emailed the mayor, and I emailed the chancellor of the DOE, and I said, listen, this information came across my desk. I have it. I also gave it to the investigators. I was like, what can we do about this? How can we do damage control? I got no response from anyone. And so I put it on my site. I called it Warren Gate because the school's on Warren Street. I'm like, this is crazy. But I also called it Warren Gate because they took away the other years. I asked for 2009 to 2012, and they only gave me 2009 to 2010, telling me
What's Warren Gate?
Warren Gate is the name I gave this kind of situation.
Oh, like Watergate or something like
Watergate.
That? Okay.
The 18 minutes missing from the tape of Watergate.
Yes.
Now here, there's time cards that are missing. New York State Archives says you have to keep these records for 6 years. All of a sudden, these records are not around. Now, tell me if this sounds,
Sounds like mafia style. Something's
exactly.
going on.
Well, listen to this. Listen to this exact timeline. In March, end of March, I put in a request for 2009 to 2012 time cards for my principal's after-school procession. A few days later, or a week or so later, a guy in a suit, quote-unquote, comes into the school building. I don't know who he is, but that's what they told me. Comes in and collects the same cards that I requested a week before. Comes and collects them. And I still have not received them as per the Freedom of Information Law Act. I was supposed to have those because I requested them because they're tax dollars. So now these cards are not being given to me. So you see how crazy that is? Mm-hmm. I request something as a public citizen, and I'm not given. And some guy walks in and takes them, and now they're missing, and I'm being told that they can't be found. How shady is that?
That's shady.
Is that shady, or that's your tax dollars?
That
I'm telling
seems
you,
pretty
everyone's
shady.
affected by this. Yeah.
So, like, how do you get into that position where you can just do whatever you want and, like, just, and, go in and somebody raises any questions, put them in the rubber room, make sure that all the evidence is taken? How do you get in that kind of position? Like, this person, Abramowitz, or all these other people, like, where these guys, they've been teachers for a long time, right? They have a long career as teachers, and they've gotten up the ranks. They're principals and whatnot, or whatever.
They have no power. What they have is, it's one of those, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if this woman, Abramowitz, was in a corner because she was not doing the right thing as per state law, and the principal is not doing the right thing because she's doing stuff with money, and the chapter leader is like, holy crap, this guy's going to beat me out because he's getting very popular in the school. So they all got together. Rich Candia and Abramowitz are friends. They hated the principal. They were planning on finding ways to get rid of her. They even raised their hand in a union meeting in front of 300 people at the Hilton Garden Inn in Staten Island and said, how do we get rid of a horrible, horrible principal? That's what they said. And I told the principal, I was like, you're listening to these guys. They were planning your demise more than anyone else. And, but again, an enemy of my enemy is my friend is a thing here. Okay. Now, the principal has power because she's a principal and under the Bloomberg mayoral control. So principals can't really do anything wrong because they're the CEOs of the companies, in a way.
Okay.
So and that's what it comes down to because,
what's a FOIL request?
Yeah.
What's a FOIL request?
Freedom of Information Law.
Okay, so that's what that was.
Because it's a public document, it's public money, you can request to get access to it. So imagine, I'm a teacher, and I'm requesting my principal's credit card bills. And people are like, are you crazy? Why not? It's a principal's credit card for the school. It's her. It's not her personal one. I want to see what she's buying with it. And let me tell you, that stuff was even shady. She broke down the payment. Anything over $2,000, you have to get approval for. So she found this vendor. I don't know what she was buying with it, and it doesn't really matter at this point. She broke it down in one day. She gave them over $5,000, but she broke it down into like $1,500. So she doesn't have to get approval. I mean, I'm telling you, there's very shady things going on.
What's an RO49?
Oh, that's our school, Richmond County 049. It's the code for the school.
Okay. So out of all of this, you're in the rubber room. You've been in there how long now? You've been there almost a year now?
222 days ago I was removed.
And so what do you... I know we talked about it before, and then we went back into all the allegations and whatnot. So what do you think is going to happen? What do you want to happen with this case? What are you trying to get resolved here? And
Right. I mean, that's a good question. A lot of people ask me that, and it's not always an easy answer. I think this has gotten past just going back into my classroom.
Yeah.
I mean, I've embarked on this journey now where I need to make...
It's very political now. Now it's getting,
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I realize there's a huge broken system. And now, being who I am, I'm like, I can't just go into the classroom and help 150 kids. There's thousands, a million, 1.2 million kids are being adversely affected by these policies.
Right, and you're talking about now you're getting people reaching out to you in other states that are in the same kind of situation. Tell me more about that.
So there's people in LA who they were being removed and sent to quote unquote rubber rooms. But I don't think they had that name. So that's why when you Google rubber rooms in education, you won't find them in LA and other places because I don't think...
No, that's just like a moniker they gave to it in the New York City area, right?
Exactly. Right.
But they have that same kind of system. Like, it basically just happens when you have like the teachers union and they make some kind of agreement and it's this red tape evolves and you can't really like fire the teacher right away. You got to let them, their allegations be heard and this whole thing happens and you can't fire them, so you need to put them somewhere. So that's what's happening basically, right?
Right. But the process is so long. Like, they're still investigating my real estate. They said, one of the allegations against me was that I do real estate during class time. That instead of teaching the kids, I was running a real estate business.
Now, were you doing that? Were you going on the MLS listings and stuff like that? Were you looking on,
During class time? No, I told the investigators. I don't know how much I could say because that investigation's still open.
Okay.
But trust me, I am not worried about that at all.
Okay. Well, I mean,
But
even if you were doing that, that doesn't seem like a big deal. Like if you were doing a little bit of real estate, as long as you're teaching the children and stuff, it seems like it's okay to have a second job. I mean, my girlfriend has a second job. She's a teacher, like I said. She makes hula hoops, dance and fitness, adult size hula hoops and stuff. If you ever wanted to check it out, it's the Hoop Movement. Hoopmovement.com. Let's give her a plug right there. But she has her own thing on the side, and everybody. I feel like this is America. You should be able to have your thing on the side. It's just,
right.
I guess it's the thing with where you're doing it on school time. Probably they were just using that as just to get you. Just another.
And guess who came up with that allegation on January 30th? Just 3 days after he tried to get people out of the meeting. And I took over. My former chapter leader, my union guy that we elected, I voted for him to protect us, was telling the principal, you need stuff on him? Just tell him that he's doing real estate during class time. Now, you got to check the video out. It's a 7-minute video on my website about how my class operated. It's on YouTube. It's got maybe 1,400 hits. It's nothing crazy. But watch that video, and you tell me if I had time to run and look at 2-family properties for buyers or whatever when I'm teaching these college-level courses to 6th grade special ed students. You think I had time to look for apartments and houses?
Well, what else? What else? Is there anything else you're leaving out but the allegations?
Oh, I mean, there's 18 of them. I don't know how much time we have.
Oh, God, okay, yeah. Well, we definitely, we don't have the longest time. I'm going to be getting this thing.
ProtectPortelos.org
Yes.
or .com, and it says allegations against me up top.
So ProtectPortelos.org, that's your website?
Right.
ProtectPortelos.org, and that's PORTELOS.
Right.
So on there you have everything, and anybody who wants to go on there, they can check out all the allegations and whatnot. So, but some of the allegations are still happening, right? Even though you're out of it and you're in the rubber room, supposedly some other things have been happening to you.
Yeah, because Bobby, when you want to draw blood from a rock and you can't, you just got to keep trying to come up with other things. So when they have nothing, they even contacted my environmental firm 5 years that I haven't worked for 5 years to see if they could get anything on that. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. That's what every time I hear this, I'm like, oh my God, they really have nothing on me. Because I mean, to contact a company that I haven't worked for in 5 years, and if they had something, they would already come up with something.
Right, and they would have probably already had this arbitration or whatever. So they're just kind of keeping you in there.
But let me just make a point. There's people with me here. There's about 230 reassigned teachers around the city right now.
Okay.
There's about 14 of them are in my building, and a lot of them have charges brought against them. That there's hearings and everything. I haven't been charged with anything. I haven't even gotten to that point where I'm charged, and it's been 222 days.
Really?
That's since I've been removed. That's since April. Imagine. It's been almost 300-something days since I had my first allegation against me about real estate. January 30th to November 30th, quite some time to figure out, hey, did this guy do real estate or not,
It seems pretty stupid. It's pretty hard to substantiate that kind of that allegation anyway. I mean, it's going to be somebody's word against somebody else's. It doesn't seem like very feasible, and it's kind of stupid. It's not a big deal. It seems like if you had all these other things going on, all this positive, influence on your, in your community and on the kids that you're teaching, it's very, ridiculous.
Well, you know what? When they confiscated my computer a month later, they were, they're basically probably looking in my cookies and my temporary folder and looking at stuff, which makes sense. I told the investigators, by all means, investigate me till the day I retire. I don't care. Keep investigating. But none of that should have removed me from the classroom. You could investigate a teacher while they're still in the classroom. That's the problem with the rubber rooms. They should take out only the people who have serious allegations against hurting a child,
What was the thing about being out on the ball field?
Oh, my God. So there's not only am I being investigated, but there's top brass in the DOE being investigated. For example, Andrew Gordon is the Human Resources Director. He reassigns everyone. So when I say everyone, I'm talking about thousands of people over the course of how many years he's reassigned. So when they reassigned me from my school to Petrides Center in Staten Island, my commute was only 5 minutes. It went from 5 minutes to 5 minutes. It was no big deal as far as commuting goes. And then they were like, okay, this should shut him up. I continued blogging. And I just realized not too long ago that the same day they reassigned me from there to 20 miles away, I put out a blog post. I think it was called Online and Omnipresent. And they're like, holy crap, this guy's not shutting up. We'll shut him up. We'll move him 20 miles away. I mean, so they needed a reason to be able to move me out of my district in violation of the chancellor's regulations. And they said that I was being insubordinate, that I was walking around the ball field. And I said, okay, prove it. They're like, well, if you want a disciplinary hearing, Mr. Portelos, we can arrange that and you can get more letters in your file. I was like, okay. And I called their bluff, and it's been months now, and they still have not been able to show any proof that I've done any of those. Even my supervisor there was like, I had nothing to do with your reassignment. Imagine supervisor had no idea about these insubordinate acts.
So were you being insubordinate? I mean, you find yourself, you're going through this whole thing. You're a teacher. You're having this whole spout, and you're putting the rubber room, and it's pretty close, and you're kind of angry about the situation, right? I mean, I could understand that if you're out blowing off steam on the ball field. Maybe I would be doing that too. I'd probably be acting a little bit insubordinate as well myself.
Oh, not me. I'm smarter than that.
Okay.
I've seen people go crazy. Like, I've seen people come in to the rubber room and be irate. They're like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? I've been teaching so many years. What the hell is going on? I was like, all right, this is the process. I'm going to work through it. I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons. I sat there. I was very gracious to everyone. I said, is there anything I could do? They're like, oh no, here's a bookshelf. They told me, here's a bookshelf. My first day in the rubber room. And remember, the rubber room is closed, so everyone has administrative duty. They showed me a huge bookshelf, which I have on my blog, and it said, here's a bookshelf for you to read. You're going to be here for a while. Imagine that.
Wow.
You're paying
It's like
me,
prison.
Yeah.
It's like prison, you get another book from the guy from the wheelie cart.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's part of the process to break you down.
Wow. That's amazing. So, it's been a really interesting chat. I don't have that much time because this is a brand new podcast, and I hope to get more. But I just like to say thank you for coming on and talking about your situation. This is really really interesting situation. It's a crazy situation, and something has to happen about this. But some good things have happened to you too, right? Do you want to talk about any of that before we go? There's something about something was published in the New York Teachers.
Yeah. So since I've been removed, I had articles published in Your Teacher about the way I teach in my class. I mean, it's very hard for anyone to fall behind in my class because all my lessons are online. So anyone who's absent or anyone comes in late, they could just play, rewind. It's called PPR, play, pause, rewind, learning.
Yeah.
So imagine, I'm in the rubber room. Not only do I win chapter leader, which was a big accomplishment, I have articles published. And then I go ahead and file for U.S. patent for a separate website I have, and I have a patent. I mean, they're looking for these highly effective.
So all these good things are happening. You're still moving forward with life, with the other things that you have going on, even though despite this this pretty negative thing that's happening with the teaching,
yeah.
Right?
I'm making lemonade with the lemons that they give.
This is so crazy though. Really, there's even there's a recent documentary. It was a couple years old, I think. The Rubber Room. Have you seen that at all? Where they go in and they're interviewing a lot of teachers. Those 14 teachers that you say that are with you right there. How do you act with them? Are you cordial with them? You guys kind of act like coworkers. Do you ever go out for drinks with them after happy hour or something like that?
No, not like that. But we do talk.
Yeah.
And we do. We talk all the time because we're in a similar situation. I haven't come across anyone who I think is really guilty, because a lot of the people who tell me what's happened to them all started after they brought up sorry, it's windy now on that side.
Okay, no problem. We're gonna, but
yeah, they brought up issues.
Yeah. So people that bring up issues find themselves in there. So you're with a lot of like-minded people, kind of. Right? Is there anybody that touched anybody or anything like that? Or is there anything crazy like molestation charges or anything like that on anybody?
No, not that I came across. No.
All right.
One guy. Let me just tell you. One guy. He didn't know why he was here from February. So imagine you're there from February. You have no idea why you're here. In June, they finally called him in. So February, March, April, May, June, and they tell him, "Hey, some girl said she came in late to your class, and you said to her, 'Oh, you're late again.'" And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Did you say that?" He's like, "I might have. I mean, that's something customary. Yeah, that seems like something I would say." He's like, and the investigator's like, "Wait, did you say?" And kind of make this face. he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, this is why I'm here. She's like, well, I could have taken in a sexual way. He's like, what?
Wow.
I mean, these are the people that are in here.
Honestly, whatever happened back in the day, I remember my grandfather used to tell me about how he was in Catholic school, and they'd take his hand and they'd say, come up here and we're gonna hit you with, we're gonna hit you across the knuckles with a ruler. That's the kind of stuff that used to happen. Now we're in this situation where you can't do anything, can't say anything, you can't say like that without being
Good. Thanks.
So it seems like you got to go back to work, right?
Yeah, I got to go back in.
You got to go back and shuffle some papers around?
Well, interesting enough, after I did that live stream, they asked me to do lesson plans for my substitute. So I was like, all right, great. I'm going to actually do something here that's productive for my students back at school, which I found out to be totally false because now it's been 2 months later, and I'm trying to do these lesson plans, and I have no one to talk to from the school. So how am I supposed to know what the substitute's up to? My kids have had 10 substitutes, and now they tell me, oh, it's not for a substitute. We just want you to write lesson plans. So
Wow.
Imagine, I'm doing work, yes. But should the taxpayer be happy now that I'm doing work? No, because the work I'm doing is going to line someone's birdcage.
So you actually thought that you might be helping these kids through some, through these substitutes that you can give them the lesson plans, and you still are teaching kind of, indirectly, but now you're not. It's really just to keep you doing something, keeping you occupied, so you're not blogging, you're not talking about this and letting everybody know about what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a busy work. That's why I can only do this during lunchtime.
All right. Well, listen. You know what, Francesco? Get back to that. Thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate you. You've been great. It was a very awesome conversation, very interesting, and maybe we could talk again in the future. Okay?
I'd love it. I know it's a little crazy and it goes in a lot of directions.
There's a lot of points. There's a lot. There's a lot of directions, but I think it's good that we talk about this because it's pretty crazy and it's real. So I wish you good luck though, my friend, and I hope everything works out for you. All right? That's protectportelos.org. If you want to know more about it, visit his website. If there's anything you can do, you want to help, is there anything that they can do?
There's a petition online.
There's a petition online. Okay.
Change.org.
On what?
Change.org.
Change.org?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can go there and you can sign that petition if you think this is ridiculous. All right, Francesco, have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. That was a really interesting conversation I just had with Francesco Portelos. He, I don't know, man. He's out there and he's blogging away. I really hope that everything works out for him because it's kind of crazy thing to have on your resume. If you do a little Google search, you find all this craziness going on with his situation. So my heart goes out to him, and I hope that he can rebound and get his career back on track. But really, I think that there's a bigger piece of the puzzle with all of this stuff. It doesn't matter what you do in life, what kind of company you work for. If you work in an American corporation of any kind, be it you're a teacher or you're a salesman or you're whatever, it doesn't matter what you are. There are those people that are trying to slither their way up the corporate ladder. And if you come in from behind them with any kind of outside of the box thought, any kind of opinion, if you're not just being the little sheep standing in your corporate box, they're going to alienate you. They're all going to come out and they're going to get you. It's like that quote from Jonathan Swift. Whenever a true genius comes on the scene, you will know him by this, that all of the dunces form a confederacy against him. And that's it. If you do anything in life at all, and you're smart, you're thinking outside the box, and you're saying whatever, get out of that corporate structure and do it on your own. It's just like this podcast. We live in a great time and place where anybody, if you have the wherewithal to do so, you can get out there and you can make a change. I'm sitting in my freaking studio apartment in New York City, and I'm talking in this little microphone, and I'm trying to broadcast it out over the internet. If I'm so lucky to have somebody listening to this, then that's awesome, and maybe it will make a change, and maybe it will teach somebody about something. This one certainly does. Now you guys should all know what a rubber room is and what's going on up here in New York City. If you want to know anything more about me, you can check out BobbyPickles.com. You can check out my t-shirt line. It's what we do is we basically satirize people and places of history, politics, and pop culture, and we got some really good artwork on there. I do graphic design, I screen print. We're coming out with all new stuff. We got an awesome Hunter S. Thompson on there. So if you want to go on there, you want to buy some really cool t-shirts, some pseudo-intellectual party shirts, then go ahead, jump on there, check out BobbyPickles.com, and I'll see all you guys next week, all right? That's me!